Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cloud Wars Live. The digital revolution is in full swing, and we are digging into ways to ensure that your company has the highest chance for successful projects and thriving in the digital economy going forward. One of the world experts on those sorts of things is our favorite monthly guest, Bonnie Tinder, who's the CEO of Raven Intelligence, a site that does peer review commentary about how software projects come along and the partners who help those take place. Bonnie, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you.
It's so great to be here. And Bob, good to see you.
All right. And Bonnie, I didn't mean to put any pressure on you talking about, being one of the world's top experts in this. So no pressure.
Wow. Well, with that, I have a big title to carry on, I guess.
Good. No. I think you've been demonstrating that. But Bonnie, there's so many things going on today with this, and we see companies, it feels to me like from a lot of the businesses I talk to, they're realizing that it's almost like a mindset shift they had to get through, right? That before you had a software project with a beginning, middle, and at some point an end. And it seems like today, these digital transformation projects in some discrete sense, but the overall process just rolls on. So it's a new way that companies and leaders of these projects have to look at them, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this whole concept of a go live for a piece of software, I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg, and just really the beginning of the journey. So really, we think about projects as having a defined, beginning and end, but they're really just part of an overall transformative effort that, really has no finish line, because we're always going to be iterating and improving in the future. So who knows where the next wave of technology will take us, but we can say a project has an end date, but the innovation that's necessary to keep this going on is ongoing.
And the sort of that relentless pressure from the outside world, customers, partners, other stakeholders wanting things to improve, to get better, more choices, more options, different engagement models. So the drivers are all around there, but that's I think a great context. So Bonnie, it looks like you've got some rules to help people avoid problems or pitfalls on the digital transformation journey.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought I would start off with my monthly quote, which really ties into this topic, stated by the greatest coach of all time, Mike Ditka of the Chicago Bears. Success isn't permanent and failure isn't fatal. And, as I was thinking about the topic for today, and we just talked about these transformation efforts are iterative. So just because you were successful in one portion of your project doesn't mean that you can claim success forever. And just because one part of your project, has been really rocky, it also doesn't mean that your project, you don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and say, oh, well, all hope is lost. But really, I think what I had wanted to talk about with you today, Bob, was, some of the questions you can ask yourself along the way throughout the phases of the project to make sure that, as maybe things go off track, you can quickly get them back on track and learn from, any failure points, so to speak. And certainly from where I sit, we look at customer project success. That's the business that we're in at Raven Intelligence. And I will tell you, every single one of the reviews that we get from a project had hiccups along the way. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they were a failure entirely. So it's just like, let's figure out what are those things that you can do in a very practical way to make sure that your product, if it is rocky, isn't a complete failure, so to speak.
Yeah. And Bonnie, just a quick aside on the first part of your saying there on the wall that success isn't permanent. So I know you're a Bears fan, but on the baseball side, Cubs or White Sox?
Oh, absolutely, the Cubs.
Okay.
I'm a North Side girl, so.
Okay. All right. That was an easy. So I don't know if with the Cubs you got to see much. Do you remember a baseball player 10, 15 years ago, Jose Canseco.
Sure.
Yeah, he had some fantastic years, but over time, injuries, other things, he just wasn't the player he used to be. Got signed to some spring training contract by a team, and I don't think he was exactly killing himself to get into shape and all that. And he got cut. He was one of the players that got cut early. And at a press conference that he called to discuss this, one of the things Jose Canseco said was, "I didn't know that I was going to be judged on my performance." So I think he had the notion, I guess, that because he had been successful, success is permanent, and that he'd have a lifelong job, I guess, in baseball because he had some good years. But that is just a wickedly damaging and harmful outlook. So I think that the juxtaposition of those things, success isn't permanent. You got to re-earn it and re-justify it all the time. And if along the way, as you said, if there's failures, stumbles, hiccups, they are not fatal. They can be either painful, they can be learning experience, depending on how we how we look at them and adapt to that. But I love those two things about success and about failure. That's good perspective for you to start on here.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think as we think about like the success of a software or digital platform, I mean, this mentality of what have you done for me lately is always out there. And so you have to continue in order for a software or, a technology foundation to, make your organization go, it needs to have adapted with the times. And, I think as we think about, okay, so what are the signs of failure with a current project? And you might not be in an implementation of a new software. Maybe it's you're managing a legacy system. These are the same type of questions you should be constantly asking yourself. Does our project or does our software set us up for success in 1, 3, and 5 years? If it doesn't, that's a problem. And you need to go back to the drawing board there. I think another question is the leadership on board with this particular initiative that we have? Are they helping to remove roadblocks or, put forward resources, whether it's a budget, whether it's more people on a project to help overcome, the challenges? If you don't have that support from leadership, you need to ask yourself, is this a project that really is going to get the support that it needs to be successful? Red flag there. I think a third question or early sign of project failure is our team internally meeting expectations and handling their responsibilities? If you have team members who are too busy to get the initiative, the tasks that they've been assigned done, or they're moving internally and no longer are going to, have time and focus on this project, or maybe they're leaving the company. When you have team turnover, huge red flag that, your project is at a turning point that has the propensity to fail if you're losing the momentum of your team internally. So I think those are 3 major questions to look at. Certainly there's others, but your team, the leadership support that you have on, and what's the longevity that this project is, once this is completed, going to set us up for success in the future. If you can't answer those things appropriately, it's time to go back to the drawing board and say, all right, how can we get this project back on track now?
Yeah. Yeah. No, great points across the board there, Bonnie. And, it's I think one of the reasons why your counsel is so valuable and that the services that Raven Intelligence offers are so valuable is it's fine and very helpful to point out these things, here's what can go wrong, but I think you've also got the corresponding things of like, here's what to do about it, how to avoid it.
For sure. For sure. And, I think, we always talk about, preparing, setting yourself up for success. So you're not constantly needing to ask you those questions so that you're, spotting those red flags. I think really easy up front is, set a clear project goal and timeline. I mean, easier said than done. I said it's easy, but I mean, that's really your defining moment. And what is going to help ensure that you, can meet the initiatives provided is that you've set the clear project goal and a time frame for it. As we talked in the beginning of this, of our session together, these projects are iterative. They're going to be ongoing. They're going to last for many years, as long as you have, the piece of technology that you're working with. On the other hand, there are defined moments that matter in that product life cycle. And you want to make sure, in order to sort of, set yourself up for success, that you eat the elephant one bite at a time, and that you, you really have a very clear sort of view as to, in this phase of the project, what are the things that I need to get done to get us to the next phase, and things like that. So,
Bonnie, that's a great point. And I think we want to just dig into that a little bit more in just a second. But first, a word from our sponsor, BMC. BMC wants to know, is your business on its A game? That's when systems are intelligent by learning from markets, where automation is paramount yet effortless, and when technology and people work as one in an enterprise. The A game is your business at its absolute best. BMC calls this the autonomous digital enterprise. Find out more at bmc.com/agame.
Clear project goals and timelines, and manage to those things. And, clearly the other piece of that that's related is, you need to make sure that those project goals that you have are aligned with your company-wide goals. If those two things are different, or you're sort of working in silos, not aligned with the company-wide goals, it doesn't matter how great your project is, it's not going to be a success, because it's not going to meet the major business drivers that you're trying to solve for. So, I mean, that's a sort of an obvious one, but those two things need to be intrinsically linked.
Hey, Bonnie, can I ask, would you, the list you put these out, clear projects, goals, timelines, leadership buy-in, to make sure the project's aligned. Is the urgency and the intensity of business today and change in the business world, is it such that, should that project alignment with company-wide goals, would you consider that perhaps the most important of these?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And we saw a lot of examples of how that was changed, with some of the acceleration due to, the crushing demands of the pandemic, and needing, so much more from a digital perspective in terms of, customer relationship and all of those type of things. So those, pressing business drivers accelerated these digital projects. So obviously that was really easy to see the hand in hand, linkage between a project goal and, your business goal.
Yeah.
When we don't have such a defined sort of event like the pandemic brought us, it's a little bit more difficult to sort of make a clear tie-in with those two areas. But without a doubt, if your technology doesn't fit into an overarching business goal that you can measure, again, you might achieve the goals that you put in place for the technology, but it's really never going to satisfy the overall business if it doesn't meet those overarching goals.
Yeah, and I would imagine along with that, Bonnie, it will be more and more difficult to get that leadership buy-in that's so critical. If somebody says, "Now wait a minute, why are we doing this? What's the thing here?" And then, Bonnie, I had one other question for you relating this. So you advise people you want to be sure to eat the elephant one bite at a time. Now, what is this? Is this like a baked broad? I've never heard about eating an elephant. What's the best? How do you prepare an elephant? How do you cook that?
Well, like the age-old question, how do you eat an elephant? Right? It's like one bite at a time, I guess. So I prefer mine sauteed.
Okay. All right. No, that was a good. When I heard it, it makes perfect sense. It was just the right context for it, but I was thinking, wow. Anyway, that's but you capture the scope of the problem there. It's big. It kind of can seem never ending. So just be careful, be thoughtful about how you work through it, measurable, and so that other people can see the results and win and get the confidence boosts along the way.
Without a doubt. And, I think it's so important to celebrate those successful milestones, because it helps you build momentum for the other phases of your project. And it helps build support internally when people can see, hey, that went great.
Yeah.
And, success becomes then contagious, and people always want to be a part of something successful. So it's going to help you get better project team members in the future. It's going to help you gain a wider, adoption for the software that you've put in place when you can show short-term success, because that helps you build on the excitement internally for something, even if it's a small win or a small go live. We always encourage customers to celebrate those along the way, because it really helps sort of build the rest of the project
Yeah.
acceleration. Yeah.
And then Bonnie, your other point here that you're going to describe, again, I find that one of the unique differentiating aspects of Raven Intelligence. One of the reasons why, you've got this powerful set of offerings for people in the peer review space, because you get into the discussion of the right partner and how critical that is to these projects.
For sure. And, the right partner can make or break your experience, and can help guide you along the way, because they've done this before. This is how their sort of core competency is project success. And so when you can find a partner that helps guide you along the way and has done it before, has that experience, has that expertise, and can truly, come alongside you and, almost be an extension of your company's business. I mean, that's the best case scenario. And so, in selecting that right consulting partner, you want to find out, does this partner really have a track record of success? Have they done this before? Do they have proof points that can show that other customers like me have had success in working with these people? And so really selecting the right partner along the way is a big deal.
Okay. Bonnie, when people check out your site regarding partners, what are a couple of the top pieces of intelligence that they're looking to gain about partners?
Yeah, you want to find out, certainly their areas of specialty. You want to find out the industries for which they have project references for. So if you're in healthcare and you see no healthcare references for them or no healthcare reviews, red flag. The other type of questions that you would want to take a look at, or the other pieces of data that we look at, are how good was their project scoping? So do their projects have a lot of change orders, or are they really understanding needs up front? That's a big differentiator, or it's a big correlation to overall satisfaction, is how well a project team completes a project without doing a whole bunch of change orders. That's a big piece. The other thing is what's the rate of team change that they have during a project? You want a partner who's not going to bait and switch you and give you the A team during the selection process and, bring in their top talent so that you buy into them. And then, lo and behold, you sign a contract and the JV team comes in. Mm-hmm. You don't want that. You want a partner team that's going to stay intact throughout the duration of the project and not change. And we ask our customers, the customers who review projects, how many times did they change the team on a project? They have multiple changes, huge red flag too. So those would be, I think, the three major things that I would say is team consistency, project scoping accuracy, and, experience level. Do they look like me?
Yeah. And then Bonnie, companies, into one of these projects, and it's not only the expense that's involved, but it's the opportunity, right? If this doesn't work right, the company can be put in various types of jeopardy about that, because again, the way things are moving today, the need for these things to be done right, to be done quickly, and to deliver the right sort of impact is so critical.
Yeah.
What's your counsel then if somebody's partway into something, they say, I just don't have a good feeling about this? Where do they go?
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens. Like, as we said, failure is not final. And so it's, you want to make sure that you fail fast and then get up and change your path quickly. So if you do have a project that you think is going off the rails, you want to identify what's happening in real time, identify the specific points of failure. If it's that your project team isn't right, get a new consulting team in there as quickly as you can, so that, you're not having to do that later. And I think trusting your gut early is better than hoping things will get better as you go along. So that would be, make those changes, especially with people, early. I think on an ongoing basis, you need to request feedback from those involved on the team, as well as your leadership or your executive sponsor, because you want sort of frank, candid feedback from all of them about how they feel the project is. Maybe as a project leader, you sometimes have a pride of ownership and you don't see some of the obstacles that your team members might. So these open dialogues that you can have from outside objective parties it's really good. I think adjusting your plan based upon those findings and member feedback is important. Sometimes you just have to change the goalposts in the middle of a project. I would say that, I don't even have to guess. Statistically speaking, more than half of the projects that we see are over time and over budget. That doesn't mean that those were project failures. That doesn't mean that even the customers were unsatisfied with those projects or they failed to deliver the results. It just meant that it took longer than they had originally thought. There's a variety of reasons for that. And so, sometimes you just got to be flexible in terms of your expectations on time and budget, because those are things that are open to change. Where you should not be flexible, though, is overall quality of the project. And that's going back to, is this team the right team to help me get my results? Identifying, what are you going to accept in terms of quality? And, if you're spotting, breaks in that, or how should I say, compromises in that area, changing out those team members is what you want to be inflexible on. And then finally, just learning from your mistakes and documenting what happened. Every project is going to have failures. So, reviewing your project on Raven, Intel.com is like a great way to document that and help somebody else so that they can, not make the mistakes that you did, but documenting that information internally so that you can learn from those challenges and make sure they don't continue to happen in future stages is also, so critically important. That documentation, again, sometimes you learn more during the failure stage or during a failure than you do during success. So documenting that and learning from it and then moving to the next phase is really key.
Bonnie, your thinking there is right in line with something that Larry Ellison said once. He 10 or so years ago, in the early days of his work in the America's Cup, they had done better than expected, but they still lost a couple of very, very close matches. And he said, they say you learn more from failure than from winning. He said, maybe that's true. He said, I'm tired of learning from failing. He said, I want to learn from winning. He said, let's see if we can learn more there. So I think you're right, but the significance about that thing of learning from your failures is never repeat them again. And, how can you not just sort of get back to zero, but then be smarter next time, be able to do it faster and, make each one of those not just a little bit better, but incrementally better along the way. That then helps build the organization-wide support and enthusiasm. People want to be on your team. Like you've said, they want to be with the winner.
Yeah.
So it's, just in a way, some common sense, but it also, I think, this hard-earned common sense that you've described here today, because things are so much more intense. The impact can be bigger, and the implications these days are bigger.
Yeah. Without a doubt, without a doubt. And, I think your value as a project leader and as just a leader in general goes up when you have your battle stories, but that you can actually talk about, all right, and here's how I overcame them as well. And that's really what, on your next project is going to, to help you be even better, is to understand what those, what those failures were, but become a success as a result.
Well, Bonnie, thanks. This was great. I think, as always, you deliver some very, very hard-earned advice in practical ways that, the rest of us can understand. And again, the timeliness of what you're describing today just seems more essential than ever in these times of, increasing reliance across all phases of an organization on technology to be the thing that creates, unique advantage, that creates the opportunities for growth and success. So thanks for the great discussion today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here.
All right, Bonnie, thanks. It was great. And to all of you, thanks for being with us here at Cloud Wars Live. Look forward to seeing you next time.